Hello, welcome to the online lecture that is part of the Barbalipe University. I am your instructor, artist and researcher, Rosemary Cisneros, and today we will be looking briefly at Romani dance. It will be impossible for me to cover all aspects of Romani dance in this 30-minute lecture. I hope to touch on some key concepts, share examples and resources, and demonstrate how Romani dance can be passed from generation to generation. With this in mind, I am deciding to honor the oral and embodied traditions of Romani dance, and this lecture will include some dancing and also invite you, the viewer, to learn and experience Romani dance. Throughout this online lecture series, Romani history, intersectionality, identity, politics, slavery, and performing arts have all been discussed by other Roma experts. Romani dance history holds a unique place in this conversation, as it allows us an entry point into discussing those embodied histories and allows us to return to honoring the inter- and intra-generational components of the community. We know that Romani performers, not least Romani dancers, have entertained and captivated audiences wherever they have traveled. We can trace the influences on Turkish, Russian, and Spanish dance, among others. There are obvious commonalities between many of the dances still being performed today, including swirls, pronounced footwork and stomping, hip and shoulder movements, and elaborate arm work. But despite the strong influence of Romani dance, there has been scant detailed information until recently due to research focusing on the area, about the people involved and their work. That is most likely owing to long-standing widespread discrimination, as well as the dual phenomena of assimilation and annihilation, which have contributed to the virtual absence of Roma from national cultural narratives. For this lecture, we will have snapshots into different communities, and there will be a reading list that goes alongside this video that is created by leading academics and artists that have been teaching and researching the topic. That list will also include videos from Roma communities and will hopefully highlight the diversity of the community's dance history. The dancing body also raises several questions around gender and identity, as well as tensions that are linked with politics and the professionalization of the art forms. Authors such as Carol Silverman, Adrian Marsh, Shani Rifati, Christos Papakostas, Alexander Markovich, Ayla John-Cherry, among others, have looked closely at Roma dance history. Their contributions to the field deserve several lectures and are essential to this conversation. However, it is important to stress that while there is a place, and indeed very meaningful for academics and such experts to be included in this conversation and to support the documentation of the art form, there is also a value in ensuring that grassroots community members and the dance of the barrio, or the MAHALA, is also included and represented in this conversation. As previously mentioned, it is impossible for me to cover all of the information of the community in a 30-minute lecture, but what I hope this lecture does is open up a dialogue to help us reflect on the place that Romani dance has in this broader conversation of Roma history. I hope we can see that dance practices have a firm place in this conversation and can be a form of activism and a tool to teach and unite people. It is without question that I must start by positioning myself in this conversation. I am a Roma and learned dance informally and then went on to dance and train professionally. I have danced throughout the Northern Hemisphere as well as throughout Europe and the UK. My professional dance career and teaching has allowed me to study and perform under some of the greats. At the moment, I am an artist and researcher that collaborates with researchers, artists, cultural heritage institutions, companies, and many other leading Roma organizations and NGOs. I have a degree in sociology, which has influenced how my dance practice has evolved. It is important to note that I also work closely with grassroots communities and artists, and this idea of the community, the barrio, the MAHALA, is central to this discussion and to Romani dance history. I will draw on Shani Rifati's writing to explain the phenomena of MAHALA. I will read from his published online 2016 writing that sits on the Choretaki website. And I quote, "In order to understand the Roma music and dance, one has to understand the Mahala, the neighborhood, and the social fabric of the Roma community. Usually, the communities in a Roma settlement are based on hierarchy, clan, and neighbors. So most of the Roma dances from the Balkan countries, for example, Macedonia, Serbia, Bulgaria, Kosovo, Albania, Greece, Turkey, are to a large extent parts of Roma's survival and existence. For Roma in general, it is very important to celebrate weddings, circumcision, baptism, and holy holidays, and thanks to this, Roma have survived for thousands of years since their arrival from India, in Europe, and elsewhere." Mahala dances in the Balkans are mostly based on community coming together as a social gathering, not as a place for individuality. For this kind of gathering, individuality has no room and place, so it requires the entire community engagement, especially paying notice to the elderly family members. The majority of the dances are in various rhythm forms such as 2/4, 7/8, 9/8, 12/8, and there are many more of these complex rhythms." End quote. Rifati is known as a teacher of Romani dances and is known for his work specializing in dance mostly from these communities or mahalas. Choreography is not considered standard practice, and he claims that these Balkan states would rather promote the country's nationalism than the cultural treasure of minorities, either before or after the fall of communism. We will pick this up again when we look at flamenco in relation to the Spanish dictator Francisco Franco. But for now, let's return to the discussion on Mahala and continue to use Rifati's writing to help us unpack this concept. Continuing to quote Rifati, Mahala dances come in various forms and steps. The most common one is the farro, or the horo, which translates into heavy dance. In Bulgaria, Serbia, Kosovo, and Macedonia, they also call it teshkoto. Usually this horo is danced in an open circle. In some places there are only women dancing without a single man in a circle due to the fact that some of the Roma have adopted the Muslim religion. Also, only men's circles exist. The faro horo is known too as man's dance. Another common dance throughout some of these countries in Eastern EU amongst Roma is called köçek, or the kichek. The köçek is mostly played on 2/4 or 7/8 rhythms with its variations. This is the dance that predominates in all dance gatherings in Roma settlements. End quote. Carol Silverman has written a lot on this dance form. A little later in this lecture, we will visit some of her writings. Other forms of dances are also well known, such as the pravo, gajda, telovas, and many more. Since the fall of the communism and the collapse of the ex-Yugoslavia, many young Roma lost these dances, whereas older generations are not able anymore to dance the way they used to do when they were younger. Many mahalas have been destroyed and no longer exist due to war, gentrification, or economic changes. As we start to see, when we discuss the dances start to reveal social realities and highlight the human rights violations and discrimination that the community has experienced and continues to face. The concept of the mahala is central to Romani dance history, and the mahala stresses the importance of the communal. But there are also dances that are done as solos or by the individual. Köçek. The köçek, which is danced by Turkish and Balkan Roma, is next in this discussion. Carol Silverman states that the köçek in Macedonia and Kosovo and the kyuçek in Bulgaria is the most characteristic Romani solo dance and can refer to the line dance. In its solo form, it is improvised and features hand gestures, pelvis, abdomen, and shoulder isolations, as well as shoulder shakes. It also includes jumps, spins, and intricate footwork. Both men and women tend to hold up their arms and use both shoulder isolations and finger snapping. Women also tend to make use of hip movements, albeit much subtler than those used in the Middle Eastern dance. The male dance is especially energetic and dynamic, featuring jumps, squats, body slapping, stomping, and other percussive body movements, according to Peretz in 2006. In 1967, the dance ethnologist and choreographer Elsie Dunham traveled to Skopje, Macedonia, and for decades she digitally documented Romani dances. She was able to track and follow the changes and deviations between quote-unquote originals and what was later staged, end quote. In her field research, she noted that in the past the solo dance had been performed only at private events, and she says, quote, "The solo was danced only during private segregated occasions, such as part of a 5-day wedding cycle or a 3-day cycle for the circumcision of a son or at the naming of a newborn child. During the event, every female at the party was expected to rise up from her floor-seated position to dance a type of quote-unquote belly dance, producing a vertical up and down movement of the abdomen. In Laban notation terms, this is somersaulting movement of the pelvis. The arms are moved in an improvised range at about shoulder level with snapping fingers, while the feet are stepped in place to the rhythm of the music, usually in a 9/8 meter. The music accompaniment was by a hired Romani woman who sang and held a tambourine in an upright position with her left hand while tapping her skin with her right hand. More affluent families used a phonograph player for 45 RPM records of Turkish melodies in 9/8 meter, and end quote. Elsie Dunham in 2006. Silverman details how these Balkan dances are consumed and reproduced in modern-day contexts. She goes on to examine how communities internalize and in some cases appropriate both these dances and the music. Silverman has written plenty on the topic. Some examples include The Gender of the Profession, Music, Dance, and the Reputation Among Balkan Muslim. In 2008, The Transnational Chochek, Gender and the Politics of Balkan Romani Dance. And in 2016, she wrote Diasporic Ethnicity, Gender and Dance, Muslim Macedonian Roma in New York. She is an expert in Roma dances and offers a lot to this conversation. Hungary, the BOTOLÓ and the CZÁRDAS. Weapon dances and war dances probably exist all over the world. Dances which use some type of weapon-like implement, either the sword, the axe, the hatchet, the stick, etc., have been classified as weapon dances which reflect the times. The remains of antique dance culture of this kind is also found in Hungary, and references dances like the BOTOLÓ, the stick dance, are well known. The Hungarian Academy of Sciences Photographic Archive has offered a collection to the Rome Archive, which documents various versions of the BOTOLÓ, both in a performance context and in rural environments. The collection that was offered to the Rome Archive comprises 100 images dating back from 1955 to 1989, and a number of shots capture the nuances of the dances. The Hungarian national dance, the CZÁRDAS, is a courting dance performed by a couple. It has a slow section, the lassú, which is followed by an exciting, faster section known as the friss. The dancers are instructed to carry themselves in an erect manner with a sense of pride. The CZÁRDAS includes fast footwork where the dancers snap their feet inward and outward, while the couples whirl. The music, often played by a Roma orchestra, is in 2/4 or 4/4 time, with compelling syncopated rhythms. The CZÁRDAS developed in the 19th century from an earlier folk dance. The Hungarian composer Franz Liszt wrote music that was reminiscent of the czárda in the Hungarian Rhapsodies. Kowalczyk in 2003 reminds us that the mushrooming of gypsy bands in the last decades of the 18th century was triggered by the Hungarian nationalist movement, which encompassed all cultural genres, including music, dance, and costumes. Hungarian dance songs. The Hungarian Roma repertoire includes a type of music that could be considered dance songs, which, as the name says, serve to accompany dances. Kowalisk in 2003 describes their typical features as, quote, "They are in duple time, the text lines are 7 or 8 syllabic, but they may acquire 3 syllables in the middle and at the end of the tune. For example, 8, 8-3, 8, 8-3, or the number of lines may increase." End quote. The BOTOLÓ stick dance is a triple meter 3/8 or 6/8 and can include some strophes which combine duple and triple time. The stick dance. The first dance to emerge from Hungarian historical source material is the 16th and 17th century Hajduk dance. This dance has been interpreted as a shepherd or soldier's weapon dance, but in a wider sense it also represents the general folk dance style of the period. According to the historical accounts, male dancers, both alone and in groups, performed acrobatic configurations virtuosically, whirling their weapons and combining free-form compositions. End quote, according to Martin in 1979. The handling of the weapon is reminiscent of combative fencing movements and could be performed by male groups or in pairs which include women. The dance includes forceful acrobatic stamps and charismatic gestures of the arms and rhythmical shouts. The popular instruments of the era, such as the bagpipes, fiddles, or drums, were also part of the Hungarian dance song style. Among the numerous Eastern European instrumental weapon dances, the stick dance merits the most attention. Martin says, "The stick dances of those shepherds and gypsies dwelling in their countryside that borders the Great Plain to the northeast represent the richest and most integral of Eastern European weapon dances." End quote, 1979. Martin also explains that for 2 or 3 decades, the best stick dances emerged from among the Bereg, the Satsmir, and the half-breed shepherd gypsies, as well as the coppersmith bell pourers and the trough scoopers. The BOTOLÓ dances of the northern eastern region of the Great Plains and the Kanastach, the swine herdsman dance of the Transdanubia, are living proof of the wild Hajduk dances of old times. Highly charged topics that need more attention are starting to emerge, and this is linked to dance and the stereotypes and dance and appropriation. I started the lecture by saying that there was the Roma population and is highly known, particularly for its performing background and nature. There is an idea that the Roma are a musical people. I would like to turn to an online article entitled "Beat That Drum," exploring the politics of performance among Roma brass musicians in Vranja, Serbia. This was written by Alex Markovic for the Forum Folkloristika, issue 2 in winter 2013. In this article, Markovic explores this question a bit more and has sections entitled "The Roma as a Supremely Musical People," and he writes, quote, "In Vranja, Roma have specialized in professional musical entertainment for at least 5 centuries. Ironically, it was the historically marginal status of Roma that de facto contributed to their control of this profession. In the late 19th century Ottoman Empire, entertainers often came from non-ruling classes and ethnic groups precisely because public performance and musical livelihoods were considered too shameful for higher status Muslim communities." And he quotes Silverman, Sugarman, 2003. Roma thus specialized in the stigmatized practice of performing music and dance for pay because it was one of the limited number of occupational niches to which they had preferential access, and so the highly developed musical skills that the Roma maintained are linked to their political and economic marginality in society. As a result, popular stereotypes even today in Vranje closely associate Roma with music and dance. More importantly, both Serbs and Roma in Vranje explicitly describe Romani musical talent as something, end quote, innate in their, quote, gypsy identity, something, quote, in their blood. In contrast to the stereotypes of the lazy, dirty, or deceitful nature of gypsies, praise of their talent for music implies that Roma are uniquely and perhaps only suited for careers as professional entertainers. This commentary naturalizes the position of Roma as musicians, while at the same time ignoring the very real power, inequalities, and economic motivations of Romani performances. Ironically, these perspectives make Roma musically central while simultaneously referencing their otherwise marginalized place in majority, and in this context, Serb society. It is precisely this paradox that structures the interactions of Roma musicians and Serb patrons at local celebrations, allowing celebrants to use Roma entertainers to facilitate their own performances of self and status for the community at large. End quote. Alexander Markovic has gone on in the same article to discuss the way that culturally charged events offer opportunities for dance to happen. Weddings, baptisms, and many other celebratory moments include dance and music. We are going to watch a short clip of a wedding happening in the Mahala on the streets. Alex adds the following text to frame the clip. Dancing Kuchek, Romani wedding in Vranja. One of the groom's close female relatives takes her turn leading the dancing, accompanied a young male relative. With all attention centered on them and the musicians close at hand playing up to them, the two display their complete abandon and revelry not only through dancing but also the ostentatious throwing of money. Now we can see the relationship between the dancer community and musicians. This energy and the ease in the dances highlights a passing down of traditions and an embodied history and knowledge. I would like to use a more current example of Romani dance that emerged via an Ariac initiative, the Haide de Calais Ariac Dance Contest. The contest called all Roma experts of dance, movement, art, and choreography who perform alone, in pairs, or in bigger groups from all over the world to present the virtuosity and diversity of Roma dance heritage passed on from generation to generation by applying with a short dance video. Ariac received over 66 videos from 132 dances from 19 countries and engaged over 1 million Facebook views between June 8th and July 10th, 2020. The finalists of the competition were selected by the international jury members, which comprised of Isaac Blake, Rosa Maria Cisneros, Toby Gorniak, Belen Maya, Shani Rifati, and Attila Shanto. The jury watched all videos and chose their 3 favorites. The result was a list of 13 artists, which each jury member had to grade following the criteria the guidelines established. Those criteria were restoring traditional dance moves and forms, virtuosity of movement and expression of emotions through dance, intention of choreography and presentation, authenticity of movements and certain regional traditions, reinvention of Roma dance heritage and contemporary dance and movement art. From the 13 dancers, 10 became finalists, being the 3 first with the highest grades, the winners of the contest. An additional prize was given to the video with more views from the Facebook audience. We are going to watch examples of grassroots dancers that self-nominated themselves and entered and contributed to the dance contest. This modern context of a major cultural heritage institution offering a platform to allow dancers from all walks of life to contribute and share their version of Romani dance is telling. what we see here are questions that deserve space and debate. If you visit the website and view the 66 videos, you will see that there are a range of videos. Some, one might argue, reinforced or drew upon stereotypes, while others could be seen to be pushing Romani dance in new directions, allowing for choreographic innovation and ways of expression. Others were perhaps more, quote-unquote, traditional. However, some questions that emerged for me personally while watching were: 1. Should Roma dancers be pigeonholed to only doing Roma dances? Should only Roma dancers be allowed to dance Roma dance? If a person is Roma and they dance and embody another style of dance, is it still Roma dance? Again, I don't claim to know the answers to any of these questions, just ideas that emerged for me as I was watching the films. There are several other questions that we could consider and discuss. Neither question has one right or wrong answer. Healthy and respectful debate is good. I encourage us to consider to see the importance of dance as it allows us to reflect on social, political, and historical realities. And with this in mind, I would like to reflect on flamenco, which is an area that is near and dear to me for several reasons. It is the art form that was passed on to me via my family, and it is the art form that I'm passing on to you and my own daughters and students that I engage with. Flamenco. Flamenco has its roots in southern Spain and was born from the Gitano, the Spanish Roma community. One could argue that several other cultures influenced the style, but the art form was born from its Gitanos. Drawing on Gonzalo Montaño Peña's term flamenco gitano will be employed because there is a current debate that says that flamenco is Andalusian, where there is another camp that claims it to be gitano. My position is that indeed Andalusia and that reality influenced flamenco, but the roots and the core of the art form are gitano. Flamenco was created by gitanos. Montaño Peña has curated a section on flamenco for the Rome archive that includes a number of videos and articles that explore flamenco from this perspective and highlights anti-gypsy legislation in Spain and the way that the dancing body was problematized. There are several other aspects to that section that he curated, and I encourage people to visit the Rome archive and the various sections. Flamenco is also extremely important to understanding the Roma reality in Spain. This is not to say that all Gitanos love flamenco or have a connection to it, but that flamenco does indeed hold a very important space within the community. A very brief overview of flamenco must include an example of how the close relationship between the cante, toque, and baile, the song, guitar playing, and the dancing, are interconnected. There are several palos, or styles, of flamenco that could be visualized as a tree. This flamenco tree shows how different styles, or palos, evolved with time depending on the influence of social, political, and artistic realities of the various contexts. To illustrate this point, I would like to now use as an example of a very basic teaching of myself passing on a rhythm to my daughter. The teaching is happening in a family environment and honors the traditional way of passing on an art form. Earlier in the lecture, I mentioned that dance was part of a celebratory cultural events for the Roma, but it also can be part of the everyday. Children and adults and elders are closely linked, and that respect for each other is important. Children are central to the family. I have honored this tradition via ensuring that she is included in all of my professional dance and research projects. I danced with her until I was 8 months pregnant, and 3 months later I was in the studio teaching and dancing, and she was there, strapped to a sling or in the space watching and observing. However, teaching happens at home in a number of ways, and including her is central to everything I do that is related to dance and my professional career. What you will see in the video is me trying to teach her flamenco compás, a rhythm. Similar to the video we viewed earlier with the Moshel family, where there are 3 generations dancing together, this short clip highlights how those informal teachings influence and keep the art form alive, and in some cases, lead to professional careers. You're gonna go bum, bum, bum. Do it. Dun, 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 dun. A ver, en serio, flamenco, feet together, pies juntos, así, los brazos.
I don't like that part.
A ver, esto es parte de la clase. Ok, y pum, pam, pam, pam. ¿Ya? Ok.
I'm gonna do another foot.
Ok, haz el otro pie. Dun, tan, 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 tan. Sígueme. Ti, ti, ti. Ti, ti, ti. No, así no. Venga, ¿quieres hacer el marcaje? Marcaje, mira. Pam, tiki, tan, tan. Tiki, tan, tan. Tiki, tan, tan. Sigue. Tan. Tiki, tan, tan. Tiki, tan, tan. Con el ritmo. Tiki, tan, tan. Tiki, tan. No, así no, amor mío. Si lo vas a hacer, tienes que escuchar, ¿vale? Venga. Y 1, tu, 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 tu. Tiki. Okay, then let's do it properly. Y pa, 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 pa. Tiki, ti, ti. Tiki, ti, ti. Tiki, ti, ti. It is a pattern, es eso. Ahora con los brazos.
It goes loop right.
¿Ya? Ok, mira. Hey, bien. Bien, con el pie. Guarda el tiempo. Vale, bien. Virtual Mahala dance teaching. I would like to end this virtual lecture with the virtual Mahala gathering. I started this lecture by saying that the Mahala was central to Romani dance history, and it is the community, the oral traditions, the passing down of teachings, the inter and intra-generational ways of relating and being, and the grassroots way of connecting that is fundamental to dance from the barrio or from the Mahala. Shani Rifati highlighted that the community was key. Well, in the planning of this lecture, I turned to my community, young and old, for support. Those from Ariak, Ayonada, Ana, Joseph, my dear friends and fellow dancers like Gonzalo, Isaac, and also my elders like Carol and Shani were instrumental in bringing this lecture to life. If I were teaching in a studio or at a university, I would invite those experts to come and teach the dances that they are experts in and honor their voice in the passing down of the art form. But we can't do that right now. While we are experiencing this global pandemic, we might not be able to be body to body, but the energy, resilience, solidarity, and connection that is part of my values and of the Mahala can still be honored. I wanted to have my elders teach me a dance and allow them to guide me, and for you to witness that vulnerable process of learning and doing. We couldn't do this live, but the digital allowed us an alternative. My dear Shani, as I like to call him, sent me a video of an online lecture demonstration. He offered this to me, and I would like to close with a short extract of that work.
So, walk, 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 back, step, step, step. Okay, again, I'll turn my back. So, and right, left, back, step, front, step, lift. Again. So, walk, walk, back step, cha-cha, and ta. Again, left, right, ta, cha-cha, lift. Again, right, left, right, back step, cha-cha, right step, lift. And so far, any question? I go to the second figure.
Okay, that's good.
So again, we walk with the right, back step, cha-cha, right, and lift. Left, step, ta. Again. After this, we have left arm, right crossover, tip. Again, from the position that we left, like from here, right forward, ta. What do you call that? Cha-cha or I don't know.
Step across.
So again, left, down, right front, cha, left, lift, left, right, then beginning. No. So we have right, left, right, back, cha.
Thank you to all involved in making this lecture happen. To Ariak, the people behind the scenes, the discussants, and all of my teachers and those elders who taught me. Romani dance history is as much about the past as it is about the now. Honor and respect the body as it is a powerful tool. A flamenco teacher once told me that they have been dancing for hundreds of years. She was illustrating that she carries all of those that came before her and is a vessel for the moment. And the dance will live beyond her and continue. It is a lesson I never have forgotten. The body keeps score. Please be safe and thank you for listening.